As a professor, hello. There we go. As a professor, I feel more comfortable standing. Hope that's all right with you. And there's not that much in me anyway, so I might as well stand up. You'll see me a little better that way. It may seem something that you take for granted, but as an American where we barely speak one language well, I appreciate it when I see Hans and Martin up here speaking a second or third language halfway well, and I just want to acknowledge that. Thank you very much for doing that. And so, yes. I will be brief, which I'm sure you will appreciate. You will actually be watching about 34 and a half minutes of a documentary that runs quite a bit longer than that, just in appreciation of the amount of time we have this morning. And then afterwards, if you have questions, snide remarks, rotten tomatoes, feel free to fling them at Tony down here. So here's my brief story, and the rest of it we can cover later. 1989, the great professor, Dr. Drew McDaniel at Ohio University, mentioned the so-called pirates of Holland, or the Netherlands, and in essence said to me, the crooks have taken over the show. Now, I realize since then there are no crooks, and I realize you hadn't taken over anything, but you had at least made a very important point. And I resigned then that I would somehow meet them. I had no idea how, but as I became a professor, later in about 1998, I tried to organize a class trip. And I now realize that would have been the worst thing I could possibly have done, trying to herd students and others around, doing something like a class while trying to meet the offshore broadcasters. So I'm glad it failed. At the first meeting, I remember having somewhere around 40 plus, mostly retirees interested in taking a trip abroad. The second meeting, we had about 12 people. The third meeting, about 2. And I realized that wasn't going to work. So time went on, and as my teenage triplets were becoming a college age now this year, the trip around the country that we had planned as a family didn't seem like it was going to happen anytime soon. And my wife finally looked at me and said, you know what, go get your sabbatical. We know you're going to go around the country and meet some of the American pirates, who you'll see here, by the way. And we'll somehow make the trip work. I'm very thankful to my wife, Donna Hepler, sitting in the second row taking video now, poor thing. But that comes with the territory, I guess. So my thanks to a board of trustees probably no one here knows, to Dr. Dennis Galladay, the president of Hartford Community College, where I'm lucky to work, Dr. Annette Hagray, the vice president over me, and my dean, Paul Labe, who did a lot to get me here, or else this would not have happened. I hope you enjoy the fruit of their approval, and to Hartford Community College itself. So once I got this approval in the fall of 2011, I'm looking around the world and thinking, so what in the world do I do now? I don't really know any of these pirates. I'm going sometime in March 2012, and I'm now figuring out I'm going to put together this documentary of some sort. So I started making calls, and I called Radio Veronica, and of course nobody there was a pirate. But they knew enough to say, why don't you call this Hans Knott guy? Of course, mispronouncing his name, I'm sure he's way too used to that. So I looked up Hans Knott online, and you can imagine about 75,622,000 hits came up on the internet. And I said, that looks like a guy to talk to. So I emailed him, and about 72,625,000 emails later, he has been very kind. I'm here. And it's in large part due to Hans and Jana, and Johnny, and Tony, and Ad, and Tinica, and some of the others you will see in this documentary today. I am very thankful to them. With that, I think that's enough of me. We'll watch now about 34 and a half minutes of documentary, and then I'll be happy to take questions, comments, whatever suits you. Thank you for having me. Don't know that you could tell in this light. I've already been given my, at the Oscars, they have cards that tell you time limits. I've already been given my card, or I'll be shot dead where I sit, so I'll try to pay attention to that. I don't know if you could tell, but when you heard the odd voice, there's actually Commander Bunny. This is a hat I brought with me. He'll be shocked to death that he made it to Radioday NL 2014. But for that interview in shadow, in silhouette, he actually wore a little rabbit ears hat. But I don't think you could see that here. But it was cute for a guy who wasn't, say, 12 years old at Halloween. So, questions, comments, what can I do for you? Yes?
Where can we get hold of the full version?
Well, at this point, the full version isn't completely done. In fact, the errors that I saw today drive me nuts. But probably by late spring, summer, I'll have this sucker done. My email, other contact is all over the place. And so if you're interested, the only delay might be at this point I'm going to do a round of film festivals, etc. And so if there are any rules that prohibit me from distributing, I might need to delay a bit, but thank you for asking. And the price is $6,000, so I think that'll... Yes, sir.
So I can play that way.
Yeah, but Hans gets a free copy, so he'll be happy to bootleg it for you. We are pirates, so. Oh, we have a mic. I'll get you in a second, sir. Yes.
Perhaps I could make a comment about pirate and free radio generally, which I hope might stimulate some research by enthusiasts. Something that's never mentioned in discussions about radio generally is that the first, as I understand it, the first entertainment radio station in Britain, which I think was more or less in the vanguard of this sort of thing, was actually a commercial station. It was set up in 1920 by Marconi, the owner of the patent, and Lord Northcliffe, who was the Rupert Murdoch of his day, effectively. He was the owner of the Daily Mail, which was effectively the first tabloid. I don't even know the name of the station. It's never discussed. It's never mentioned on the BBC. One understands that, of course, but it's never mentioned in pirate radio discussions either. The station started, as I say, in 20, as I understand it. It was suppressed by the government in about 18 months. And 18 months after that, the British Broadcasting Company was set up at the behest of the British government. And we never hear anything about it.
Right.
That's all I know about it.
Yeah.
But it's in these discussions, surely it is germane that radio originally was in the private sector.
Right, and I appreciate all of that. There are many difficult decisions that go into making something like this, and one of those is, what do you leave in, what do you leave out? And we very much thought about including the very, very first pirates, which would probably take you back into the 1900s and teens. Americans still foolhardily believe the first station was KDKA Pittsburgh. Well, it wasn't. But all that being said, one of the hard decisions we made was not to go that far back and take time away from the story of these pirates, which was our focus. So, though I very much respect what you're talking about.
Just about to finish, but
Sure.
I would also say that general politics perhaps comes into it as well, because Northcliffe died unmarried in the 20s. And was also very unpopular with the British establishment because of his involvement with right-wing politics.
Right.
And Marconi's best man at his second wedding was in fact Mr. Mussolini. So there are ramifications, but
Very
I'll shut
interesting.
up.
No, it's all a good point. Someone down here had, yeah, okay.
I wonder, did you have a chance to talk to the guys that did the R&I in America? That was only on for a couple of days?
No, did not. Another great point, but I did not. Right. Yeah, many regrets. That's one of them. Yeah, someone else? Yeah, back here. To your left, Tony.
Thank you very much for your nice video. Just a suggestion, if you want to elaborate this further, to include something about the Voice of Peace, which was a more idealistic and less commercial radio station. And I think that should be included in the documentary as well. And
another one of those hard decisions, very aware of Voice of Peace. Yep. Something else? I'm not looking for a pat on the back, but generally speaking, did this serve your purposes? Did this reflect you in some way, shape, or form? You're not thinking rotten tomatoes? No?
I think it was very well done and presented a nice balanced perspective, in my opinion, of those heady days, certainly of the 1960s. Too much we've seen it pretty much trivialized, and a lot of the on-air people having fun, the girls, the glitter, etc. And certainly that was a component, but very little has been said about the darker side, and it's nice to have that balance. Very well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Someone else, and I'm being given the rap, but I'll take that one last someone. And I don't mean to be disrespectful to the one asking for a copy. Happy to do so. Just don't quite know my timetable, but if you want to chat, we can. Last comment, and I'll be done. I don't know how much Europeans realize that the United States citizen doesn't get pirates. They don't get pirates. When I said to people over the last couple of years, I'm doing a sabbatical and a video on the radio pirates of the North Sea, of Europe and UK. They go, oh, that's great. Oh, those rebels. Oh, that was so cool back in the 60s. Yeah. I mean, do you know why they did it? Oh, because they wanted to go out and play their stuff and be out there on the boats and... Yeah. But do you realize we had the Beatles and they didn't? but they're out there on their boats and they're, yeah, okay. So clearly, my audience, quote unquote, back home, and if I'm lucky, maybe a broader audience, didn't know. They don't get it, because we'd had rock and anything else from the 50s on. And the British invasion literally was an invasion that you didn't have on your own turf. They don't get it. And so part of what this video will do for people, I hope, is explain this is why it happened. This was the guts they had. This was the fight they fought. It's more than just rebels out there on the water. Thank you very much.